The gravel crunched under my favorite pair of sensible beige pumps as I coughed on a thick, suffocating cloud of premium unleaded exhaust. I just stood there, the violent rush of semi-trucks blasting hot wind against my face, staring at the glowing red taillights of my parents' silver Lexus SUV as it merged aggressively back into the frantic afternoon traffic of Interstate 95. They didn't slow down. They didn't tap the brakes. They just disappeared into a sea of minivans and sedans, leaving me completely alone on the shoulder of the highway. I'm Amelia. I'm 32 years old, a licensed CPA with an 800-plus credit score, a fully funded 401k, and up until exactly 10 minutes ago, I actually thought I had a family. Well, technically, I was just the designated punching bag for the Taylor family circus, but I played my part. You see, in the great American suburban hierarchy of our manicured cul-de-sac, my younger sister Chloe was the undisputed, platinum-tier golden child. She is 29, has never held a job longer than 6 consecutive months, and still acts like a high school mean girl whose biggest daily struggle is picking between a venti matcha latte and an iced caramel macchiato on her routine Target runs. I, on the other hand, was the eternal scapegoat. I was the pragmatic, boring older sister who spent her entire life walking on eggshells just to avoid setting off my mother's legendary status-obsessed tantrums or my father's red-faced, vein-popping rage. The catalyst for me standing on the shoulder of a major interstate with nothing but my cell phone on exactly 2% battery? A little $50,000 misunderstanding. Chloe had recently managed to snag herself a fiancé, Liam, a genuinely decent, wealthy guy who runs a massively successful commercial landscaping business. They had a joint checking account specifically earmarked as their wedding fund. A week ago, exactly $50,000 vanished from it into thin air. Now, because I'm a CPA, the family naturally pigeonholed me into being their unpaid, unofficial financial advisor. I had basic viewing access to help them budget for the ultra-expensive country club wedding my mother insisted they have. When the money went missing, Chloe didn't just play the victim. Oh no, she produced evidence. Beautifully forged bank transfer receipts tying the missing funds to a dummy account that just happened to have my initials on it. She sat at my parents' massive granite kitchen island, sobbing actual crocodile tears, claiming I was deeply jealous of her perfect relationship and embezzled her dream wedding fund to ruin her life. I am literally a certified public account. If I were going to steal money, I wouldn't leave a neon-lit paper trail a first-year business major could track. But my parents? They swallowed her lies like fine wine. That brings us to this morning. My parents ambushed me at my house, demanding I ride with them to our family's lake house for a mandatory intervention. The moment the car doors locked, the gaslighting began. How could you do this to your own sister? My mother, Barbara, spat from the passenger seat, her perfectly manicured hand clutching her imaginary pearls. We raised you better than to be a bitter, jealous thief. I clenched my jaw so hard my teeth ached, a cold sweat breaking out across my neck and sliding down my spine. I didn't touch her stupid money, Mom. Look at the routing numbers. They don't even match my accounts, I pleaded, my heart hammering wildly against my ribs. My dad, Richard, gripped the steering wheel so tight his knuckles turned bone white. Stop lying to you, Amelia, he roared, his voice echoing violently in the confined space of the SUV. Chloe is devastated. You are a disgrace to this family. The argument escalated until I finally snapped. Maybe if Chloe didn't spend every dime she gets on designer bags, she wouldn't need to stage a fac robbery. The absolute second those words left my mouth, my father violently swerved the Lexus onto the gravel shoulder of I-95, slamming the brakes so hard the seatbelt bruised my collarbone. Get out, he screamed, his face a terrifying, unnatural shade of purple. Get the hell out of my car. We are done with you. My stomach dropped straight through my shoes. Dad, we are 30 miles from town, I whispered, my hands violently shaking as I reluctantly reached for the door handle. I said get out. I stumbled out into the dirt, and before I could even shut the door properly, he floored it. So there I was, abandoned. I started walking, tears of pure, blinding disbelief stinging my eyes, until a passing state trooper pulled over about 20 minutes later. He took one look at my trembling frame, the dust coating my work clothes, and offered me a ride to the nearest diner. I slid into the back of his patrol car, the heavy vinyl seats squeaking beneath me, and shakily asked if I could plug my dying phone into his dashboard charger. "Of course, ma'am," he said kindly, passing a charging cable through the wire partition. The second my phone flickered back to life, it didn't light up with missed calls from my frantic mother regretting her horrific actions. It didn't ring with an apology from my father. Instead, the screen lit up with a single sharp ping. It was a motion alert from my front porch Ring camera, my brow furrowed. I tapped the notification, pulling up the live feed, and all the air immediately left my lungs. My blood turned to absolute ice. On the tiny high-definition screen, I watched my mother, my father, and my tearful, devastated sister Chloe casually standing on my front porch. My father slid a shiny brass key into my deadbolt, the emergency spare key I hid under a fake rock in my flower bed. The door clicked open. As they stepped inside my house, I saw what my mother and sister were carrying: 3 massive, completely empty canvas duffel bags. They hadn't just kicked me out of the car in a fit of rage. It was a calculated, sickening distraction. They dumped me on the highway so they could rob my house completely blind. I sat perfectly still in the back of the state trooper's cruiser, the squeaky, sun-baked vinyl sticking uncomfortably to my thighs, watching the live feed of my own home invasion. My sadness, it instantly evaporated. It was entirely consumed by a hot, white, blinding rage that made my fingertips actually vibrate. On the tiny, glowing screen, I watched my mother bypass the expensive flat-screen TV in the living room and make a beeline straight down the hallway. My chest tightened painfully. I knew exactly where she was going. My home office, the vintage mahogany lockbox tucked in the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet. She was stealing my grandmother's antique sapphire jewelry, the one single heirloom left to me, which Chloe had relentlessly demanded for her something borrowed, and I had firmly refused. I watched my father casually shove the heavy wooden lockbox into his canvas duffel bag like he was packing a pair of shoes for a weekend golf trip. "Everything all right back there, ma'am?" the trooper asked kindly, his eyes briefly meeting mine in the rearview mirror. I stared at the screen, my heart beating a slow, terrifyingly calm rhythm against my ribs. "Everything is perfectly fine, officer," I lied, my voice steady and ice cold. "Just a minor family misunderstanding. I didn't tell him they were robbing me. I didn't want them arrested right then and there. A single night in the county jail was way too good for them. I wanted pure, nuclear annihilation. I wanted to burn their perfectly manicured suburban reputation straight to the ground." After the trooper dropped me at a roadside diner, I called a rental agency, paid an exorbitant last-minute fee for a compact sedan, and drove straight back to my neighborhood. I parked a block away and crept through my own back door. The house was dead quiet. They had pillaged my office, leaving my tax files and client folders thrown carelessly across the rug. I took a deep breath, fighting the sharp wave of nausea twisting in my gut. First, I called a local locksmith and paid double for a premium, emergency rekeying of every door. Then I pulled out my phone and typed the most pathetic, groveling text message of my entire life to my mother. "Mom, I am so sorry. You were absolutely right. I'm staying at a cheap Motel 6 out by the highway. I am so ashamed. I just need a few days to think about what I've done to our family." They needed to feel completely victorious. They needed to believe they had utterly broken the family scapegoat and gotten away with the perfect crime. The second I saw the read receipt pop up on the text message, I marched into my ransacked office, picked my primary laptop off the floor, and cracked my knuckles. I'm a certified public accountant. I track complex corporate tax fraud and untangle messy financial audits for a living. If my 29-year-old sister, who can barely balance a Starbucks gift card, thought she could outsmart me with a downloaded PDF editor, she was completely unhinged. It took me exactly 4 hours to rip her little scheme to absolute shreds. I started with the $50,000. I bypassed her fake routing numbers and dug straight into the metadata of the PDF transfer receipts she had emailed Liam to frame me. The IP address on the document's creation history? It didn't bounce from my home Wi-Fi network. It traced straight back to the IP address of a local upscale coffee shop that my sister practically lives at, but I needed to know where the money actually went. Using my residual, read-only access to their joint wedding accounts, I initiated a deep dive trace on the outgoing wire transfer. The funds didn't sit in a dummy account with my initials. They were immediately funneled into a newly formed joint checking account at a completely different credit union. I pulled the public registry data linked to the routing number. The secondary name on that account wasn't Chloe's. It was Derek, Liam's insanely arrogant frat bro best man, my jaw practically unhinged. I kept digging, my eyes burning from the harsh screen glare, my stomach twisting into a knot of pure disgust. The credit card statements linked to that new account told a sickeningly clear, undeniable story. The $50,000 wasn't just sitting there, it was being actively drained. I found charges for couples massages at luxury downtown spas, massive bills from high-end lingerie boutiques, and digital receipts for 5-star weekend hotel suites in the city. Chloe wasn't just stealing Liam's hard-earned money. She was financing a full-blown affair with his best friend, using his own wedding fund. I printed every single shred of it. The high-definition Ring camera screenshots of my respectable parents carrying the stolen duffel bags out of my front door. The IP logs proving Chloe forged the financial documents. The joint bank statements with Derek's name bolded at the top. The itemized, romantic hotel receipts. I meticulously hole-punched every single page and snapped them into a thick, heavy manila binder. It wasn't just evidence anymore, it was an indestructible weapon. Fast forward to Saturday afternoon. It was the day of Chloe's ultra-exclusive bridal shower at the Oak Creek Country Club. The kind of pretentious place with mandatory valet parking, towering imported floral arrangements, and wealthy PTA moms in pastel sundresses sipping $30 mimosas. I was, naturally, strictly uninvited. I parked my rental car, smoothed down the lapels of my tailored navy blazer, and walked right past the valet podium. I could hear the clinking of crystal flutes and the soft murmur of high society suburbs and gossip echoing from the grand ballroom. I gripped the thick manila folder so tightly my fingernails bit into the cardboard. I pushed open the heavy mahogany double doors just as the entire room fell totally, respectfully silent. My mother, Barbara, was standing at the head of a massive gift-laden table, gently tapping a silver spoon against her champagne flute. And if there is one thing this beautiful impending marriage has taught us, she projected to the room, dramatically dabbing a fake tear from her cheek, it is the absolute, unquestionable value of trust and family loyalty. I stepped into the room, the heavy doors clicking loudly shut behind me. Barbara's jaw dropped mid-sentence, her face instantly draining of all color as if she had seen a ghost. Across the room, Chloe froze with a mimosa glass halfway to her lips, her perfectly contoured face twisting in absolute, sheer terror. I locked eyes with my sister, feeling a dark, euphoric thrill wash over me, and gave her a slow, terrifying predator's smile. The entire grand ballroom of the Oak Creek Country Club went dead silent. You could have heard a single pin drop on the imported, sprawling Persian rugs. The high-powered air conditioning suddenly felt freezing against the back of my neck, but a warm, euphoric thrill was rapidly spreading through my chest. "Amelia?" my mother choked out, her voice barely a squeak, the crystal champagne flute trembling violently in her manicured hand. What are you doing here?" I didn't scream. I didn't throw a tantrum or cry like I would have when I was 20. I just kept walking, my sensible beige pumps clicking methodically against the polished hardwood floor, my posture absolutely perfect. "Just thought I'd bring a little family loyalty to the presentation, Mom," I said, my voice perfectly level, carrying an icy professional tone that echoed off the vaulted ceilings. Before the shocked country club hostesses could even conceptualize calling security, I marched straight over to the small audio-visual table set up in the corner of the room. They had a sleek Bluetooth projector running a nauseatingly cheesy slideshow of Chloe and Liam's relationship on loop. It took me exactly 4 seconds to bypass the unsecured guest Wi-Fi network and mirror my phone's screen directly to the massive white canvas at the front of the room. "Ladies, if I could have your attention," I announced. Tapping the podium microphone, the romantic engagement photos vanished. In their place, crystal-clear, high-definition video filled the massive screen. It was my front porch Ring camera feed. Loud, genuine gasps erupted from the crowded tables of wealthy PTA moms, real estate agents, and local socialites. There, projected 12 feet high for our entire zip code's elite to witness, were Richard and Barbara Taylor, so-called pillars of the suburban community, jamming a stolen key into my deadbolt. The video automatically cut to my hallway interior camera. The entire room watched in horrified silence as my father hauled a massive canvas duffel bag filled with my stolen lockbox out of my office, while my mother aggressively tossed my confidential tax files across the rug like a common street thug. "What is this?" A woman in a floral sundress gasped from the front table, her hand flying to her mouth in absolute shock. "This is Ali," my father suddenly roared, his face turning that familiar, terrifying shade of violent purple as he lunged forward from the back of the room. "She doctored that video, Amelia, turn that off right now. A deep fake, Dad," I replied, raising an eyebrow, my heartbeat remarkably, wonderfully steady. "You think I generated your bald spot with artificial intelligence?" My mother was literally hyperventilating, grabbing the edge of the extravagant gift table just to keep her knees from buckling. "Amelia, please," she whimpered, her pristine, status-obsessed facade shattering into a million pathetic pieces right before my eyes. We just went to get what rightfully belonged to the family. You robbed my house and left me stranded on the shoulder of Interstate 95. I stated clearly into the microphone. The collective gasp from the audience was deafening. Pure disgust rippled through the room. Women were literally scooting their chairs away from the center aisle. But I wasn't even close to finished. Right at that perfect, horrifying moment, the heavy mahogany double doors opened again. It was Liam. He was dressed in a sharp polo and khakis, arriving exactly on time for the traditional end-of-shower gift opening with his bride-to-be. He froze in his tracks, holding a massive, expensive bouquet of pink peonies. His eyes darted frantically from the projector screen, showing my father carrying stolen goods, to my mother clinging to the table, to Chloe's suddenly sobbing, terrified face. "What the hell is going on here?" Liam asked, his voice thick with absolute confusion. I stepped down from the podium and walked straight up to him. I didn't hesitate. I shoved the thick, heavy manila binder directly into his chest. He reflexively dropped the peonies to grab it. "Page 1, Liam," I narrated loudly, ensuring the quiet room heard every single syllable. "The $50,000 my sister claimed I embezzled from your joint checking account. Notice the IP address on the forged transfer receipts. They trace back directly to Chloe's favorite coffee shop on Main Street, not my house." Chloe let out a sound that was half scream, half sub. "Liam, don't look at it! She's unhinged! She's trying to ruin US!" she shrieked, sprinting around the gift table, her face a messy mask of pathetic, desperate gaslighting. Liam ignored her entirely. He flipped to the next page. I watched his eyes scan the technical documents, his face draining of blood until he looked physically ill. "Page 4, I continued, my voice cutting through Chloe's hysterical crying like a scalpel. "The money didn't disappear into thin air. It was wired into a brand new joint checking account at the regional credit union. Look at the secondary account holder's name, Liam. Right there at the top." Liam's large hands started to violently shake. He stared at the bolded print on the bank statement. "Derek," he choked out, his voice cracking horribly. "My best man?" "Keep turning," I commanded softly. Liam flipped heavily to the back of the binder. The credit card statements, the luxury hotel receipts, the downtown couple's spa charges. Every single date perfectly aligned with the weekends Chloe told Liam she was going on bridesmaid planning retreats. "She didn't just frame me for stealing your $50,000, I said, stepping back and looking Liam dead in the eye. "She stole it to finance a 6-month affair with your best friend." "Liam, it's fake! I swear to God it's fake!" Chloe wailed, falling to her knees on the expensive rug and desperately grabbing at the hem of his khakis. "She hates me! She's always been the scapegoat, and she just hates my happiness." Liam slowly lowered the heavy binder. He looked down at the woman he was supposed to marry, the untouchable golden child, the perfect suburban princess. He looked at her with an expression of pure, unadulterated revulsion. "The hotel receipt from the Marriott downtown," Liam whispered, his voice dangerously low and trembling with fury. "It's dated for the weekend of my grandfather's funeral. You told me you were too sick with the flu to come." Chloe froze entirely. The lie caught in her throat. She had absolutely nothing left to gaslight. "We are done!" Liam bellowed, the raw, heartbreaking sound tearing through the silent ballroom like a shotgun blast. "The wedding is Khan's!" He didn't demand the expensive diamond engagement ring back. He didn't even cast a second glance at my parents, who were now standing completely frozen in absolute, humiliating defeat amidst their wealthy friends. Liam just turned on his heel and stormed out the double doors, leaving the ruined bouquet of peonies crushed on the hardwood floor. The ballroom instantly devolved into a chaotic roar of frantic whispering. Cell phones were already coming out of expensive purses. Text messages to the entire suburban network were flying at light speed. My parents' pristine social reputation was completely, permanently incinerated. Chloe was sobbing hysterically on the floor, surrounded by $30 mimosas and sure dreams. I casually dropped the projector clicker onto the gift table next to a gleaming silver stand mixer. I turned to my mother, who was staring at me with hollow, utterly destroyed eyes. "Well, Mom," I said, my voice perfectly clear over the sound of Chloe's weeping, "you finally got the daughter you deserve." I turned my back on the wreckage, pushed open the heavy mahogany doors, and walked out into the warm, bright afternoon sunshine. If you want more deeply satisfying revenge stories just like this one, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and share the video with a friend.